Hey everybody, Doc Green, the World Scholar, back at you again. Yes, I know I'm in the same clothes as you probably seen last video because I'm making all these videos the same day. As you can tell by my background, I am still at Vidalia in Ohio, waiting on my truck to get fixed. It shouldn't be much longer now, maybe an hour or two, and I'll be back on the road. Everything's going well with the loaner truck. My truck, I get an update, down for 3 months. Ridiculous. Anyway, this video is going to be about some of the new things that FMCSA are doing, and it's going to hurt the trucking industry. Do I agree with them? Doesn't really affect me, but I don't like them. And here's one of the major rules. The FMCSA is considering using hair tests now in the clearinghouse. Now, let me go ahead and inform a lot of the new people who are watching this who are thinking about becoming truck drivers and what that means. The clearinghouse is where if you fail a drug test, let's say you go take a drug test to join a company, which you have to every time you join a new company, and you fail that drug test, if it's a urine sample or that they take and you fail, it gets reported to what they call the clearinghouse. Now, this clearinghouse shares the information with the federal government or with within the federal government, so every truck driving company knows that you failed this test, and you are not allowed to work for a truck driving company because you failed the truck test. And I get it with the urine test, because that's pretty recent, so you failed it, which means you've been doing drugs while you were recently out here driving an 80,000-pound vehicle down the road. And I'm glad they do that. I'm glad they, get rid of those drivers. The hair sample is a different story, and they've never accepted hair samples. There's never been any way the rules or anything that said that hair sample failures go to the clearinghouse. And a lot of drivers out here, like me, I've never done drugs, so it doesn't really affect me, but it does affect a lot of new people that are coming into the industry, and a lot of drivers that may have been out here for a year or so. Because that hair sample, you can fail that thing up to a couple of years after you've done drugs. It's still in your hair follicle, so you fail that drug test. Now, a lot of the big companies, JB Hunt, they've done hair tests before. I've never had to do a hair test with any of the major companies, but I do know they do them. If you fail a hair test, that used to be just the company that was going to hire you. They say, no, you failed the hair test, and they couldn't report it to the clearinghouse. The FMCSA is trying to change that. Companies like JB Hunt came up there and told them, look, we've had hundreds of thousands of people fail these hair drug tests, and they're out on the road now, and it's unsafe for this and unsafe for that. They talked the FMCSA to include hair follicle, or possibly in the future include hair follicle tests into the clearinghouse. Here's my problem with that. A lot of people may have done drugs. Let's say you're 21 years old. So 2 years ago, you were in high school or just getting out of high school or doing, getting the transition between high school and adult life and everything. And you may have smoked a little reefer or whatever, some weed, and or did whatever. And you tried it for, 6 months, your party after high school life and everything, and went on with your life and never did it again. Then you go one day, decide you want to be a truck driver. About a year and a half, 2 years later, you go take your hair follicle test at one of the major companies, and you fail it. Well, now that hair sample is supposed to be going to the clearinghouse, and you won't be able to get a truck driving job anywhere. So that's going to be able to affect a whole lot of new people getting into this. Now, I want to be honest with you. If it affects drivers that have been out here for 5-10 years and they fail a hair follicle test that gets reported to CMSA, I'm glad they're getting rid of you. Sorry, I'm not. I don't want. Even if you haven't done it the last 6 months or so or whatever, to me, you're still at high risk of. You knew when you were doing your drugs that you had CDL and everything, and you knew the risk. So, bye, see ya. Don't really feel for you. But for anyone that was thinking about getting into the industry and they haven't done drugs in a while and they were giving it up and just trying to start their life and move on with a better career and everything, ooh, this look at scruffy. I need to get a brush on this. But anyway, I don't think it should affect them. Just my own personal opinion. Tell me what you think below in the comments and everything. But yeah, the FMCSA is considering doing that. Another thing the FMCSA is considering doing. Do y'all know, anyone out here knows that these trucks have these ELDs and electronic control ECMs and stuff on them? And because any truck that was made after the year 2000, the FMCSA said at the time they passed this law that any trucks made after 2000 must have these electronic logs on them, because the trucks were made equipped with them, with the ECMs. Any truck before 2000 was exempt from this rule. So a lot of these smaller companies and stuff went out here, and independents and everything figured out ways around that. They went and got the older motors put in their trucks, and they got the glider kits and everything to make them all legal, so they wouldn't have to run on electronic logs. Because, you know, some of them are local, some of them do like stops during the day, and it would use up their clock too fast. They found a way to stay compliant. Some of them just didn't like the electronic logs, so they found a way to stay compliant. Well, guess what? The FMCSA finds out that even though they didn't have the ECMs on the trucks, that the engines before 1990 were capable of having ECMs. They just didn't have them. So now, with a stroke of a pen, they are trying to make it so all trucks, even before 2000, must have electronic logs. They don't realize the amount of money that some of these companies have spent. Some of the smaller companies, I mean, like small companies, you know, local companies, 3, 4, 5 trucks, smaller fleets, have spent trying to stay compliant by getting these glider packages on them, or by getting older engines installed or whatever, or buying older trucks and everything just to keep running, just stay profitable. So this is going to hit them kind of really hard. What do I think about that personally? Doesn't really affect me, but I don't think it's right that the FMCSA made a rule at one time and then come back and say, okay, we're changing the rule because we did not know this, and now we're going to make it so everyone has to be compliant on this new thing. Because now these people are going to have to go take their trucks back in, spend all this money to get them back up to compliant and everything. And it's a lot of money that a lot of people, especially at this particular time and stage, can't afford to spend on their trucks. But that's what the FMCSA is doing. Again, the FMCSA is really just a bunch of bureaucrats. The bigger companies are pushing for it, like, you know, these big super carriers and everything. And they're just trying to get competition out of the way. And especially now that the freight is dropping down and everything. It's like every time something happens, these big companies all of a sudden go lobby. And, of course, they got the money to do it. FMCSA to change the rules so it affects the smaller drivers, independents, owner-operators, and things like that in a negative way. And the FMCSA usually goes along with it, which looks like what they're going to do on these two pieces of new ruling. So anyway, just want to let you guys know that was coming. New drivers, those that were looking to become truck drivers, hope you ain't done any kind of drugs in a while, because that, if they pass that hair follicle, you're screwed. And the bad part is, even if you go get a job now and you fail the hair follicle on the next one, that's still going to get you put in the clearinghouse, which means you're just wasted a whole bunch of money on school that you won't be able to work with. That's the way it's working. Welcome to America. Y'all guys take it easy.